I built a premium product with my 3D printer, listed it for $130 and tried to sell it. This is what happened. Everyone who owns a 3D printer knows that moment. At some point you start wondering if you could actually sell something you print. But instead of designing another vase, lamp or organizer, I wanted to try something that feels more premium. And since Backgammon is my favorite board game, I decided to redesign that. The interesting part is that you can buy Backgammon sets for very cheap, which makes it even harder to justify a premium version. Making something purely 3D printed look premium enough for a price tag above $100 is difficult. So I decided to use wood as the base. I still had some plywood sheets in the workshop, so it made sense to use them. And if you look at some designer brands, $130 is actually on the lower end. Unfortunately, I don't have the right surname to charge more. I started with a sketch and created a rough 3D model. If this was supposed to feel premium, it couldn't be small, so I chose a size of 40 by 40 centimeters. I wanted it to feel substantial and present on a table. The 3D printer wasn't just there for decoration. I used it to print the colored triangles that would later be inserted into the wood. I also printed the game pieces themselves and designed small details like hidden feet under the board. Then it was time for the woodworking. I used my CNC machine to mill out the pockets for the triangles. My small CNC definitely struggled with the plywood. And at some point the end mill actually broke. Luckily, I had a spare and could finish the job without too much damage. After milling, I test printed a few triangles and tried fitting them into the pockets. Not every pocket had the exact same depth and there were small variations, but this is where 3D printing becomes really powerful. Instead of correcting the wood, I adjusted the printed parts. I tweaked the tolerances until everything fit properly. On the backside, I milled small holes where I later glued in the feet. These small details might not be immediately visible, but they change how the board feels when it sits on a table. Once everything fit as it should, I glued in the printed inserts. I chose orange and purple because I like the contrast and the way the colors interact with the wood. It feels modern without looking cold. After the glue dried, it was time for sanding. I started with a rough grit and slowly worked my way up. You have to be careful when sanding PLA because it can melt if you apply too much pressure or speed. Since I spent time making the inserts fit precisely, I didn't have to remove much material, which made the process a lot smoother. The best moment in any wood project is applying oil. I used a hardwood oil finish, and as always, that's when everything comes together. The wood gains depth, the colors become richer, and even the printed parts look more integrated. For the printed components I used Polyterra PLA. It contains organic additives and in my experience it has one of the nicest surface finishes. It doesn't look overly glossy or cheap and feels more natural compared to standard PLA. Now for the game pieces. Since you constantly move them across the board, they need to feel good in the hand. To improve the haptics, I embedded metal washers into the pieces during printing. That extra weight completely changes the feel. Without them, the pieces feel hollow. With them, they feel solid and satisfying. After adding the feet and giving everything one final clean, it was ready. Then came the uncomfortable part, selling it. I already run an online shop, so I listed it there for 112 euros, which is roughly $130. And then I waited. After some time, I got the notification that someone had actually bought it. That moment felt really good, not just because of the money, but because it proved that combining 3D printing and wood can result in something people genuinely value. Material costs were relatively low, around $7 for the wood, $4 for filament, $2 for the washers, and about $1 for the dies. So roughly $14 in materials, not including time. If I'm honest, considering the work involved, $130 might even be on the lower side. So now I'm curious what you think. Would you consider this a real business case, or is it more of a passion project? If you want to build one yourself, I've uploaded the print files and the build guide on my Ko-fi, and since one plywood sheet is more than enough for a single backgammon board, I used the leftover material to build something completely different.